Arnold used to joke that God had painted Ember with every shade of sunrise and then forgotten to add brakes to her ego. The first time he saw her, she was laughing at something the bartender said, her beauty almost blinding in the dim bar light. He fell hard. Everyone did. Ember liked that. Years later, he still looked at her like she hung the moon. She looked at herself like she was the moon. One evening, Arnold set the table with her favorite candles and the lemon pasta she liked. Ember swept in late, perfume trailing, phone in hand. "You started without me?" she asked, scrolling. "I waited," he said softly. "The food got cold. I can heat it up." I'm not that hungry." She dropped her keys with a clink. "Mark took me to that new rooftop place. You should see the view." Arnold's hand paused on the serving spoon. "Mark from your office?" She smiled, slow and careless. "You're jealous. That's kind of cute." His phone buzzed. It was an anonymous screenshot someone had sent. Ember and a tall man on the rooftop, faces too close, the caption, "You deserve better, man." He turned the screen toward her. "This Mark?" She barely glanced. "Arnold, it was just dinner. Don't be dramatic, you know how people talk." "The picture doesn't look like just dinner," he said quietly. She rolled her eyes. "Maybe if you made more money and took me places like that, I wouldn't need Mark to entertain me." The words hit harder than the picture. "Divorce her," Daniel said 2 nights later, slamming his coffee cup down hard enough to rattle the saucers. They were at a diner, the smell of grease and burnt coffee wrapping around them. Miguel nodded. "This isn't a mistake, Arnie, it's a pattern. She's been embarrassing you for years. Affairs, flirting, spending money like water." Arnold stirred his coffee, watching the swirl of cream. "I promised God, till death, I can't just walk away." "Promise doesn't mean volunteer to be her punching bag," Daniel said. "Emotional abuse is still abuse." Miguel leaned forward. "If you were giving us this story about someone else, what would you tell him?" Arnold hesitated, then whispered the truth. "I'd tell him to leave." "And yet," Miguel said softly. "And yet," Arnold echoed, eyes stinging, "I still love her. I still think maybe she'll wake up one day and see me." She did not wake up. The affairs didn't stop, they just got more careful. The insults got sharper. She mocked his job, his clothes, even his prayers. "You in that church?" she scoffed one Sunday as he straightened his tie. "You think God is going to send you a gold star for staying with me?" "I'm not staying for a gold star," he said. "I'm staying because I meant my vows." She laughed. "You're staying because you're scared to be alone." He almost said, "I'm already alone." Instead, he grabbed his keys and went to church with a heart that felt like shattered glass. The breaking point came at a party Mark hosted. Ember had insisted they go. "He invited both of us," she'd said. "You're my husband. It'll look weird if you don't come." At the party, Ember clung to Mark's arm while introducing Arnold as "my super sweet, dependable first draft of a husband." Laughter rippled around the circle. Arnold smiled weakly, heat creeping up his neck. When Ember disappeared onto the balcony with Mark, whispers followed. Daniel's voice appeared at his shoulder. "I'm watching you drown, man." Arnold stared at the balcony door, something inside finally snapping. "I know." He drove home alone that night. Ember came back after midnight, lipstick smudged, the scent of another man's cologne clinging to her dress. "Aren't you going to yell?" she asked, almost curious. He looked at her with a strange calm. "No." "So you're fine with this?" "No," he said, "but I'm finished begging you to love me." Her smirk faltered. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," he breathed, "I wish things could be different. I wish you wanted to fight for us, but you don't. And I can't keep dying by inches. Ember, I'm letting you go." She stared, then laughed too loudly. "You're divorcing me? Arnold, be serious. I have options. Men line up for me." "I know," he said. "That's part of the problem." The divorce was quicker than their courtship. She arrived at the final signing in a designer dress, scrolling her phone between signatures. Her lawyer mentioned Mark's name more often than Arnold's. On the courthouse steps, Ember slid on sunglasses and kissed Arnold's cheek. "No hard feelings, okay? You're a good man, Arnold. Just not my level." He nodded. "I hope you find what you're looking for." "Oh, I already have," she said. "Mark has a yacht." He watched her get into a sleek black car and prayed a prayer that surprised him. "God, please have mercy on her and teach me how to start over." Starting over looked like hitting rock bottom, then discovering there was a basement called grace. He went back to church with nothing left to protect. There he let grief come. Old Mrs. Patel from the front row pressed tissues into his hands. One evening, the pastor said, "Come help at the shelter this weekend. When you're empty, serving others is sometimes how God fills you back up." At the shelter, Arnold carried boxes, fixed broken shelves, and listened to people whose hearts were cracked in places his wasn't. It didn't fix everything, but it shifted the weight. That's where he met Nova. She was folding donated clothes, humming off key, plain t-shirt, no diamonds, just soft eyes that actually listened. "Is this your first time here?" she asked. "Second," he said. "The first time I mostly cried in the bathroom." She grinned. "We've all had our crying in the bathroom season. Glad you came back." He laughed for the first time in weeks. They talked, they served, they prayed together for strangers. One day, she said, "You talk about your ex-wife like you're still protecting her." "Old habits," he said. "You don't have to keep bleeding for someone who kept handing you knives," she replied gently. That sentence lodged deep. Love didn't mean staying where you were being destroyed. Sometimes love meant letting go and healing. Months turned into a year. Arnold and Nova's friendship slowly grew into something that felt less like fireworks and more like sunrise. Steady, kind, warm. When he proposed, it was simple. No rooftop, no audience. Just a bench outside church, a ring, and his voice shaking. "You are the safest place my heart has ever known. Will you marry me?" Nova's yes came with tears and laughter and a quiet, fierce joy. They married and had a daughter. Arnold coached Little League and taught Sunday school and spent his evenings planning charity events instead of begging someone to come home. Peace, he realized, was louder than drama. Ember, meanwhile, got everything she thought she wanted. Mark's world was glittering, yachts, penthouses, trips where the hotel lobby smelled like money. She was draped in designer gowns, tagged in photos with captions like "Hatch Blessed." But the camera never saw the empty side of the bed at 2 a.m. It didn't see Mark's phone turned face down, locked with a code she didn't know. It didn't see how often he said, "You're overreacting," when she asked why another woman's lipstick was on his collar. One night she found a message that left no room for doubt. Another woman, another Ember. When she confronted him, Mark sighed. "You're beautiful, Ember, but so are a lot of women. Don't make this bigger than it is." Her stomach turned. The words sounded familiar, her own thrown back at her with sharper edges. "But I left my husband for you," she said, voice breaking. "That sounds like a you problem," he replied. Luxury wrapped her like a silk cage. She had never been lonelier. The restaurant scene happened on a rainy Thursday. Ember sat alone, waiting for Mark. He was late, again. She was rehearsing an angry speech when a ripple of laughter floated from across the room. It tugged at her memory. She turned. Arnold sat at a corner table, leaning toward a woman with a gentle smile and happy eyes. Their little daughter scribbled on a kid's menu. Arnold's hand rested lightly over his wife's. He looked younger, lighter. He never looked that free with me, she thought, and the envy landed like a rock in her stomach. When Nova excused herself to go to the restroom with their daughter, Ember marched over and sat next to Arnold. "Well, well," she said. "That's the new wife?" Arnold nearly dropped his fork. "Ember?" "Relax," she said, giving a tight smile. "I just wanted to see who replaced me." "She's very average, Arnold. You can't be happy with that. Going from me to someone so not me." He exhaled slowly, eyes searching her face. "You know, that's always been one of your biggest problems," she squelched. "Excuse me?" "You're obsessed with yourself, with your looks, with how the world sees you. You used to be able to hide it behind charm, but that ugliness on the inside, it's showing now." Her mouth parted, outrage and something like fear flickering across her features. "How dare you? Look at you, quoting morality now that you have your little church family." "You don't look happy, Ember," he cut in softly. "Is your new life not everything you wanted?" She laughed, but it cracked at the edges. "I live in a penthouse. I wear diamonds on my wrist. Of course I'm happy." "Then why are you here at this table?" he asked quietly, "instead of with your husband?" She swallowed. "I'm the happiest I've ever been," he continued. "My wife is the best and most beautiful woman I've ever known, inside and out. She's not average to me. She's a miracle, and I see her the way I once begged you to let me see you." Ember's eyes glistened. "So that's it? You've turned into some saint now? No, he said. I'm just a man God didn't abandon, even when I stayed too long where I wasn't loved. I wish you well, Ember. Truly. Go find peace in your life. Not more mirrors. Just then Nova returned. Arnold smiled at his wife, then at Ember with finality. This is Nova, my heart. Nova extended a hand, wary but polite. Ember couldn't bring herself to take it. She turned and smiled, all the while dying inside. I should go, Ember whispered. She stood up too fast, the restaurant spinning for a moment. She walked back to the empty bar and sat alone, staring at the door, waiting for Mark. He didn't come. A text pinged. Caught up, won't make it, order something nice, you deserve it. For the first time, the compliment felt like mockery. Ember watched the happy couple, the truth finally roaring louder than her pride. She had thrown away a man who loved her soul for men who loved her reflection. At the corner table, Arnold bowed his head with his family to say grace. Ember realized with a sharp ache that he was no longer praying for her to come back. He was praying for the life he had now, and for the first time, Ember understood that beauty without character was just an expensive mask, one that eventually slipped. The grass hadn't been greener on Ember's side, it had just been spray painted. Real growth was happening at the small corner table, where a once broken man kissed his modest wife's hand and thanked God, not for what he'd lost, but for what he'd finally learned to choose.